Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this little blaster right here. This is the Taurus Judge, and it's chambered in 410 shotgun or 45 Long Colt. I believe they make moon clips for 45 ACP as well. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they do. So this gun right here has been extremely popular. It's been out for, I think, just over 10 years now, and has been a huge seller for Taurus, both here in the United States and overseas, just due to its versatility, I think. It also, of course, looks cool on YouTube, full motion and stuff like that, and that's a big part of it as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly like it. But you guys have seen this on my social media sites for months now. So sort of the background story on that is that I reached out to Taurus to try to get one in for review because everyone was asking about it. They sent out one for me to test and evaluate here on the channel. And that was in, I believe, September or October of last year, so a long time ago in 2016, and it was their 10-year anniversary of the Judge. So the plan was to get it out last year to you guys during the anniversary and the celebration that they were having for them. But what happened is, unfortunately, this very gun right here, probably during the first 10 to 15 rounds, what would happen was I'd fire around, and then the cylinder, or rather the trigger, would lock back. So it would just stay locked to the rear. Now I could unlock it by just tapping it again, but that happened pretty much every other shot after about the first 10 or 15 rounds. So called Taurus up and asked them, you know, hey, can you guys take a look at this and get this revolver squared away? They did. I sent it in. They sent it back. I think it was probably 3 weeks or so for me to get it back in, and we've been out to the range shooting it ever since. Now, one thing, generally speaking, just me personally, whenever I have a gun that has an issue, it takes a lot of rounds for me to gain confidence in it. So that has happened at this point, so that's why you guys are seeing this review. But what we're going to do at the end of the video is just kind of let you know how that process all sort of worked out. But first, I want to let the dogs take a look at it and then step out to the range and see what happens when you fire a 410 load through this at distance, because I know that's something that a lot of people are concerned with, having the rifled barrel and shooting out at distance, just exactly how those are going to group. So we'll check that out, come back in, take a look at the details, and wrap it up at the end. Certainly one of the big draws of this gun is that it fires both the 45 Long Colt and the 410 shotgun. So you can see here we have this Federal. It's 4 pellets, a triple aught buck, traveling at 850 feet per second, 2.5-inch shells. It's got some kick to it for sure. Right now, the target that you guys see on your screen, that is 10 yards away. So we're going to see what kind of spread we get, because obviously buckshot is not designed for rifled barrels like we have here on the Judge. Now, when these first came out 10 years ago, that was a huge issue, and finding 410 that would actually work in it was pretty difficult. Nowadays, a lot of manufacturers are sort of adapting their loads to work better in it, and some are specifically designing loads for this and the Smith & Wesson Governor. But what we're going to do, put these rounds in there and see how they pattern at this distance. So those grid squares that you guys see in your camera, those are an inch apart. So that one there is probably about maybe 3 inches of spread, I would say. We'll fire the next one and see if that's consistent or not. I'll fire it off to the right so we can see a difference. That one probably about 2 inches, so a little bit tighter with that second one. So all in all, I mean, I'd say that's better than I expected with a rifled barrel. You know, at self-defense distances, which it certainly is, it would be in there. But always remember, guys, you know, if you're carrying any sort of buckshot, you're responsible for everything you put down range. So you definitely got to know hot patterns and when to take the shot and when not to. Getting into the details of the gun itself, this particular one has the 3-inch barrel as well as the 3-inch cylinder. So it'll handle full power 410 loads. You can put them in there and there's plenty of room. That's going to be one of the differences between some of the early Judges as well as the Smith & Wesson Governors. Some of those have the 2.5-inch cylinder, so they won't be able to take the full house loads. So on that note, we'll just start up front and get into the details and work our way back. We have the fiber optic front sight there, and if you guys are looking at it and it looks a little bit smudged, I should point out that during the course of the shooting, the original one came loose and we replaced it. So this is the second one. That's me and my lighter that actually made it smudged a little bit, but great sight. It allows you to easily pick it up, but like anything, if it's fiber optic and on a pistol, it will and can eventually come off. So no big deal. It literally costs, I think, $1 to get one in from Amazon. So replace that. Like we talked about, we have the 3-inch barrel on there, and that barrel has a 1 in 12 twist to it. One thing that's nice is that we have a fully shrouded ejector rod, and this one is full length, so that way, again, it can kick out those 3-inch shells. It'll go all the way back. Continuing back, to release that cylinder, you're just going to push forward and it'll swing right out. Now the cylinder release here has nice checkering on it. Definitely easy to hit, and it's a smooth release, so no issues there. The cylinder itself spins freely and symmetrically, so you don't want a revolver that looks like it's wobbling. That's generally not going to be a good thing. And when you lock it in, it goes right back in. There's a little bit of wiggle to it in the double action mode, but back in single action, which is where it really counts, it's very tight. So you guys can see that there's almost no movement at all. And speaking of, the trigger itself in double action breaks right at 10 to 10.5 pounds on my scale. It's smooth. Honestly, it's better than some of the new Smith & Wessons in my opinion. No stacking all the way back, and in single action, it breaks right at 4.5 pounds on my scale, and you can see there it's very crisp. Take that back. Very clean break. It has the nice checkering on the hammer as well. And you'll also note there that when you pull the hammer back, it does have a transfer bar safety. So that way, if you inadvertently hit the hammer and knock it forward, it won't go off unless you pull that trigger back. Continuing to move on back, we have the logo right here behind the cylinder, and of course under the cylinder we have the markings of their Miami import location as well as their production facility there, but this is actually made in Brazil. Moving on back to the grips themselves, it's a good grip overall. It's rubber and it's designed so that it's a little bit on the wide side, and that's going to help tame the recoil of it, particularly when you're using those full house 410 shotgun shells. It's got some give to it. I don't think I can really show it on camera, but when I'm pushing my finger in there, it's got some shock absorption built in right there on the webbing of your hand, which is very important, again, when you're firing those full house loads. And it's got a nice high cut there underneath the trigger guard. I like the grip. It's very ergonomic. It fits well in your hands. One nice thing about guns that are so popular is that there's a ton of accessories out there for them. This is our little Cryptek holster that you guys have seen me wearing. This one's from Gearcraft Holster. It slides right in there, nice and snug fit, looks great, and of course, easy draw straight out as well. It has these little clips on the side of it. We'll put a link down below for those of you guys looking for it, but there's plenty of holsters and other accessories available for these guns. I think we touched on most of the salient points. One thing I know I left out though is that there is a little disable switch, the safety switch behind the actual spur of the hammer. I know a lot of people either like or dislike that, so if you like the ability to disable the gun and make it not function, it is there, and Taurus does include the tool with it. If you guys don't like it, well, it's there, just like on a lot of the new Smith & Wessons, unfortunately. They have lawyers like anybody else, I guess. Additionally, it's going to be cost. This one, I looked around and checked on Gun Prime today, and it was $450 for this version. Now, Taurus also makes a stainless steel version that's going to have a little bit nicer finish, but the reason this finish looks so warm when you're looking at it is that I've been shooting this gun a ton. We got it back in, what, October or November? And probably put rounds through it every week since then, every weekend since then. We've been out at the range and put some rounds through it just to make sure that the issues we had at first are fully corrected, and I'm glad to say they are. So this gun right now, just under 1,000 rounds through it of mostly 45 Long Colt from Free Munitions, both their 255 grain XTP load as well as their lead bill. So I'm back up there. If you guys see smoky ammo going through the gun at any point in the video, it's the lead bill that's loaded for cowboy action shooting. That's why it looks like that, but put tons of that through it. Additionally, some more 410 from Federal. and I've had a grand total of 0 issues at all. The gun has shot perfectly fine, and I'm pleased with that. So one thing I think particularly my audience here on this channel is going to generally scoff at Tauruses, and I think let's address that, right? So when I was out at SHOT Show, which was early this year, I asked 3 of my Uber drivers, I should say. I asked them, you know, if they had any guns, because they were all asking me about the show and how it was. And 2 of the 3 had Tauruses. 1 had a 709 and 1 had a Judge. So I think a lot of people out there are buying these guns. So that's really why I wanted to review it and see if it was okay, not okay, and basically what the verdict was. Additionally, my Taurus PT-111 video was my most popular video of 2016. So people out there want information on these guns, whether or not some people, you know, look down on them. Either way, I report back what's happened. And like I said, we had the problems in the beginning, but since then it's been great. I've had no issues at all. If you guys have any questions about the Revolver, anything like that, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.